All right, you guys, happy Monday. A little bit of history for you today. It was after the public execution of sitting President JFK in 1963 that the CIA established Operation Mockingbird. Deep state assassinations require deep state solutions. They spent an offensive amount of money to control the press and to control the narrative, to put an end to the public asking common sense questions about what actually transpired on that fateful day in Dallas. To put it simply, the deep state declared a psychological warfare campaign on the people. In effect, their soldiers were the journalists and the writers. Their goal, obviously, to get people to just stop asking questions, to almost criminalize asking questions via methods of gaslighting. Fast forward to 2025, and they're running the exact same playbook. Charlie Kirk was assassinated in broad daylight, and they immediately deployed their troops to criminalize asking questions.
What are you supposed to take from the everyone? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I think the implication was dramatic, and then I think a lot of people reading the tweets would assume that she meant Erica Kirk.
Either Erica Kirk is evil and was in on it, or Candace Owens is an evil.
I think that what Candace Owens is doing right now is evil. It is evil what she was doing right now.
Post-Charlie, there was so much unity, so much excitement, so much resurgence in faith and newfound interest in faith, and that now there is discord, so many distractions, and that is just like Satan, who comes to steal, kill, and destroy. He is called the great accuser. He is the sower of discord, the author of confusion.
The reason I haven't waited on things is I'm an eyewitness to events, and they said, don't comment on things because anything you say can mess that up. I don't want to mess up any trial for the person who did this.
That's 1,000% right.
But Candace Owens is well within her rights to suggest certain things and all this, and she has the right to free speech and all that. That's fine. She's right to ask questions. I just think it is hurtful and not helpful when you cross a line to strongly suggest somebody's guilty of something for which you have no evidence.
Challenge accepted, Frank Turek. Let's go Max today. Welcome back to Candace. Pastor Rob McCoy, let's not forget him too, because he's the spawn of naval psychological intelligence, psychological campaigns upon the public. And here's what he has to say about matters. Take a listen.
I want to read you a passage out of Romans. It says in Romans 12:15 and 16, rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. Be of the same mind toward one another. Do not set your mind on high things, but associate with the humble. And do not be wise in your own opinion. I think that's a fitting verse. I mean, we're hearing all kinds of speculation about Charlie and what he believed and didn't believe. And I just have to tell you, this is not the time for it. It's a time to minister to the family. They have a husband and a father to bury. We have a friend to bury, a brother to bury, a son to bury. And the world is mourning. And this is not the time to get clicks. It's not time to build your empire. It's time to just simply weep with those who weep. And it's time to just humble yourself and not make it all about you. It's about the Lord.
You hear that, Christians? Asking questions is just, it's not about you. I mean, is there anything that they didn't try? You're making money off of this. It's unbiblical. Charlie wouldn't want this. His family is grieving. Not right now. Let's at least wait a couple of weeks. It's going to ruin the case. You'll get into heaven as long as you don't think about it. If you don't think about what happened on 9/10, then you're guaranteed a slot into heaven. You know, I used to really lament the fact that I grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. Seriously, I hated that I didn't grow up rich. Who didn't, right? Who does not hate if you grow up without a lot, that you weren't just born into the right circumstances? And now I reflect on those feelings, and I wouldn't change a single thing. I am actually so grateful. That's what I want to say today. I am so grateful about where I started my life in St. John's Towers. I look at that building now, it's such pride. And I am grateful to have not grown up with a silver spoon in my mouth, because it fortified my character and it gave me a lot of common sense. Basic survival skills. It requires gut instinct. And I had to learn at a very young age to read people. I think that's my superpower, actually. Just being able to look at someone and sense danger or sense deceit. I can just look at Rob McCoy, and for me, it's a no. It's obviously a no. Same thing, by the way, I should mention with Steven Crowder. I have never been a fan. He just always gave me the energy of a pathological liar. I trust my gut. I don't trust influencer campaigns. I don't trust celebrities because they're raising their arms and they glitter and shine and they tell me that I should roll up my sleeves and get a vaccine. I don't listen to any of that. I trust my gut instincts, always. And my gut started to tell me that they suddenly began panicking when I discovered the Egyptian planes. They did what we now term a pre-bunking, right? A pre-bunking is when you say something casual and then they send out like a full fleet against you to not even actually debunk you, but they're just so extreme in not debunking you that they even lie about what you said. And that lie tends to actually foreshadow something that they don't want you to know. So I'll give you a perfect example. On October 11th, when I infamously tweeted about the Egyptian military plane that left Provo on the morning of Charlie Kirk's assassination, I got the time zone wrong by a couple of hours. And they completely overreacted. I mean, an account that didn't even exist wrote, oh, the time zone is wrong. Next thing you know, it was trending. And they pretended it had been officially debunked just because the departure time was wrong. But that wasn't even enough for them. They were so alarmed. And I was off air at that time, right? I took a 2-week break. They still found something to scandalize when I wasn't even on air, something that I didn't even say. They sent undercover operatives to sign up for my private book club that I kept on Tuesday. And then they took out a clip of that book club, from that book club, and accused me of accusing Erica of murdering her husband. I mean, they manufactured that claim out of thin air. And then they made it go viral. They sent it out to all the right people, Steven Crowder, right? Everyone suddenly making videos saying that because I said he was betrayed by everyone, obviously what I meant was Erica Kirk murdered her husband. And this was all happening because I mentioned the Egyptian plane. I am certain of it. And so that you can look backward and really see how these psychological campaigns work, I want you to watch this clip of Steven Crowder trying to convince people that despite the words that are coming out of my mouth, they shouldn't listen to what I'm saying. He actually knows what I really meant, which is something that I didn't say. And yeah, here it is. Here's that clip.
But you watch this clip in its entirety, and it seems pretty blatant that she's saying, and people are interpreting it this way, which is also important, that the Trump administration, not whatever it was, we went from underground Jew tunnels, Mossad, the Trump administration killed Charlie Kirk.
Just really needed to just take a breather and really process everything that happened with Charlie and what it kind of means in terms of where we are. And I think it is a circumstance where we just know that he was truly betrayed in one of the most egregious ways that I think I've ever seen. It has made me lose faith in politics. It has made me fully lose faith in Trump. And my heart aches for the fact that he gave so much of his life to Trump and to politics. And they just were like, nope, that is it. It serves us or it doesn't serve us, and we want to move on. And so here's a holiday. Bro, if they try to give me a holiday, what is with them giving people a holiday after they kill them? Why is that a thing? You know what I mean? Like, oh, Martin Luther King, what about this holiday? What about this boulevard? Anyways, let me knock it off. Like, they're going to give Charlie Kirk a boulevard. They already did. They did in Israel. They gave him freaking boulevard. It's like, as soon as they give you a boulevard and a holiday, they definitely killed you. Okay, there's no question. They killed you. There's no way. That's like their signature thing. It's like that's what they do. It's the Fed signature. It's how they sign off after they murder you. They're like holiday and a boulevard. And it's never on a nice side of town either. Like Charlie Kirk Boulevard is not going to be a nice side of town. Anyways, I will be back on the 27th, you guys. Thank you guys for all the support throughout these couple of weeks, these last really kind of 6 weeks since Charlie died. And we will see you guys then.
Well, let me first be tactful here and tell you that outrageous claims, and this is an outrageous claim, require outrageous evidence. Of course, as is par for the course, none has been presented. You know who's really close to President Trump, and you know who people are now saying stood to gain? Well, Charlie's wife, Erica Kirk, who has now been put, Candace with that language, with this accusation, has put the wife of Charlie Kirk And she'll say, that's not what I tried to do. It is. It's the result. Erica Kirk in the crosshairs. There's no middle ground here right now. Either Erica Kirk is evil and was in on it, or Candace Owens is an evil.
No matter how many times I watch that clip of me talking about Martin Luther King Boulevard and Charlie Kirk Boulevard, I do not get from that Erica Kirk killed her husband, but that's what they went with. Those were talking points that were delivered to them. They were supposed to go out of the gate with that. The question is why, okay? Retrospectively, that was a clue. They were panicking. They were trying to pretend me saying that everyone betrayed him, which obviously was not about Erica. It also wasn't about Charlie's mother or Charlie's father or Charlie's children, but they were specifically trying to struggle session that into a slight against Erica rather than more obviously suggesting that people at Turning Point USA betrayed him, which Erica Kirk was not an employee of leading up to his death. Why were they doing that? Then, of course, that made me only look further into the Egyptian planes, and I discovered that the planes had been tracking Charlie. We showed you guys this, right? We created this document, and we organized it SUBND, being the blue plane, and then tail number SUBTT being the yellow plane. That seems to have struck even more fear into the nest of mockingbirds. In fact, they sent Mother Mockingbird out, Ben Shapiro, to make the exact same wild allegation out of thin air, that I said something specifically about Erica when I had not. Again, I'll ask the question, why Erica? Why didn't Ben on stage say she accused Mikey or Rob McCoy? I've done multiple episodes now on Mikey McCoy, on Rob McCoy, speaking about Andrew Colvett, Alex Clark. Why did they keep going back to Erica? What is it about these Egyptian planes that were making them spiral? Now, I'm going to let you guys know right now that it is difficult to investigate a matter, especially when it involves a person that you know, because there are minor things that I immediately noticed that were off or unlikely that would not have necessarily alarmed the general public. For example, one of the earliest alarms that went off for me was the fact that Terrell Farnsworth, the guy who takes out the SD cards, was there at all. Okay, Terrell does not do college campus events. He doesn't do that. He's at the top of the company. He does the big events, the SAS, the AmFest. He does not do college events. But of course, he told me they were trying something new that day. And it must have been so new that it was over by the next event after Charlie died because he wasn't there again. So he just out of the blue was at this event and then he wasn't, and he secured the SD cards. Okay, it was something that I noticed that the rest of the world would not have taken as a concrete fact. It is also how I felt, and I'm sharing this with you now for a reason, when I learned that Charlie flew into Salt Lake City that morning. Because why didn't he fly into the much closer Provo airport? Now, ostensibly, the answer is because he had an interview with a person that nobody really knows. He's a managing director of a restaurant fund. Andrew K. Smith, out of nowhere, does this restaurantology interview with Charlie. And so Charlie flew into Salt Lake to make this interview happen. That, to me, felt like an oddity, okay? Because in a typical scenario, Charlie is not going to be incentivized to go out of his way because he would only do it, actually, if there was a big donor on the hook, and maybe that's what he was told, this guy's going to give a ton of money to Turning Point USA, or B, because it was a major political person. Otherwise, for the sake of a podcast, people travel to Charlie, okay? If you want to get Charlie on your show, you're going to travel to Charlie to make that happen. He's not going to go out of his way. To me, the common thing that always happened was they would set up an interview in an empty room at the campus, at UVU campus. They would have had this guy in the corner, and Charlie would have flown into Provo. So I felt, again, didn't share it at this time, that they diverted Charlie Kirk to Salt Lake City for a reason, okay? Something else you should know about Charlie is Charlie was obsessed with planes. Okay, my husband and him actually shared this in common, where every time we'd board a plane, Charlie would know exactly, like, way too many facts about the plane. If we boarded an old American Airlines flight, he'd be like, oh, they actually took these planes out of service in the 1970s. He just had a lot of Snapple facts when it came to planes, something that I just do not dedicate any of my time into learning about. He really liked planes and knowing everything about them. And more crucially, I want you guys to understand this, Charlie had a photographic memory. He did. donor names, emails, numbers. Charlie Kirk was a walking Excel sheet. You'd walk into a room, he'd say, that's so-and-so, 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 so-and-so. He works for so-and-so, she works for so-and-so. They gave this much last year. That is why he was able to turn Turning Point USA into a successful machine, because of his memory. It was unbelievable. That's all going to be relevant now, okay? So you have to remember that Charlie landed into Salt Lake City at 9:23 a.m. local time. I suspect that if he had instead landed into Provo, he would have recognized the blue Egyptian plane, okay? It's not every day that you see an Egyptian military craft. It is now my well-informed opinion that he would have looked at that plane and he would have recognized the blue plane, and he would have instantly realized that something was amiss. And now I'm going to explain to you very carefully why I suspect that it is highly likely that Charlie would have recognized that plane, okay? Tail number SUBND, the blue plane. A pregnant mommy sleuth who was locked into this investigation discovered something that me and my team had missed. I consider her, obviously, and all of you to be my decentralized intelligence agents. Anyway, she sent me a rather urgent email, and I'm obviously protecting her identity for reasons that are clear. But I want you to know that this discovery is due entirely to her. She is the person that, in this regard, went max for Charlie when I missed something. Her email stated, in effect, that I was only partially right about the plane tracking Charlie, that she had done an additional 15 hours of research and was able to discern that the person the planes were actually tracking for years was Erica. Not Charlie, but Erica was the one being tracked by these planes. And indeed, it turns out that she was correct. She discovered that between 2022 and September of 2025, both of those aircrafts, SUBTT, the yellow plane, and SUBND, the blue plane, showed 68 overlaps with Erica's documented locations, okay? 68 overlaps. I have since been able to add now 73 times that this overlapped, okay? And 29 of those instances also happened to include Charlie. Charlie was also present. And that's what I was stumbling upon when I was looking into this. I was like, why is this plane where Charlie is? The flights were majority clustered within 5 states: Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Delaware, and Utah. And it's a pattern that she believes is statistically not random. I'm telling you this information has been completely verified. I am showing you this on a spreadsheet now. These are all the instances in which this plane, 68 instances that this plane crossed with Erica. And I'm also going to say this includes overseas as well, okay? So my instant question becomes, why didn't Turning Point acknowledge that this plane was familiar to them? When I was taking all of these figurative online bullets, someone could have easily said something, right? That's kind of a repeat thing in this investigation. Josh Hammer lies, I get attacked, Turning Point just stays silent. They know he's lying, but they allow the lie to flow. Alex Clark lies, I get attacked, I'm telling the truth. Turning Point knows it, but they kind of allow this like Catholic thing, lie to flow. And the influencers are allowed to lie. Nobody at Turning Point ever just steps to clarify that I'm onto something or I'm telling the truth about something. And when it comes to these Egyptian flights, the math on this is indisputable. There is less than a 0.00000001% probability, okay, under random distribution models that these Egyptian planes coincidentally landed around Erica at these times. Like I said, this plane was not just with her in America, it was also tracking her overseas as well. I flagged this because I was alarmed because I thought it was tracking Charlie. And I am telling you that this plane, in addition to Charlie, and primarily actually was tracking Erica. Now, let's get to the day of the assassination. On the day of Charlie's assassination, we know the yellow plane took off in the morning, but the blue plane did not take off in the morning. The blue plane, SUBND, did, however, power on. And I want to be very clear as to what I mean when I say that this plane was on. I am saying that it was transponding, okay? It's transponding at the FBO at Duncan Aviation, a private terminal. So at the very least, they powered up the electronics. At most, they fully powered it on and the engine was running, What we know for certain is that it did not move from the FBO. Did not move. It was just on and transponding. And I want you to recognize, I'm going to make it clear for you what are the times that they were transponding. It's 2 times, and I'm going to tell you those times, but first I'm going to have Mark pull this up and he can tell us what it is that we're looking at here and how we were able to find this information about the jet that was just sitting at the FBO.
Yeah, so it looks like, based on this information that I found, and I had to figure out how to use this website because my mother didn't take enough Tylenol when she was pregnant with me, so I can't get too detailed on it. But essentially, all the flight radar websites only show when the plane is actually in the air. But if the plane is on the ground and transmitting, that data from the ADS-B transponder still goes out. So this website, ADS-B Exchange, takes that raw data. And so I was able to find it on September 10th. If you look on the very left of the frame, it shows September 10th. And it looks like there's just one data point. But what I did is I zoomed in, and the plane's actually not moving. It's just GPS is a little bit inaccurate when you're this close, but you're able to see all these different times here. And that is the UTC time zone, also known as Zulu time. So subtract 7 hours from that to get Utah time. And so I tracked all of these down, and I was able to find that the plane was transponding from 9:05 a.m. until 10:34 a.m. Then it was off. And then at 12:40 p.m., it came back on and turned off again at 1:29 p.m.
Okay, I'm going to repeat that so that everybody understands. We were able to discern from this data as follows. On September 10th, on the day of Charlie's assassination, this plane first transponded from 9:05 a.m. plus 36 seconds until it was turned off at 10:34 a.m. and 5 seconds. Then the plane turned back on, the transponder was turned back on just 17 minutes after Charlie was shot at 12:40 p.m. and 53 seconds, and it stayed on until 1:29 p.m. and 40 seconds. So what was the blue plane doing sitting on the tarmac? We can only imagine what it was doing, okay? We can run a couple of options here. It's possible that they were just running a maintenance check. Duncan Aviation does offer maintenance repairs. It's therefore possible that it just chose to run some maintenance checks at an unfortunate time, okay? Another possibility is that a military jet, particularly one from a foreign country, would likely be equipped with encrypted satellite-based communications capabilities. If you wanted to make an untraceable phone call, as an example, that would be a good place to do so because only the NSA would be able to intercept that call. And it's pretty obvious that the deep state doesn't seem particularly interested in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. So that'd be a safe place to communicate on that plane. Like I said, these are our options. What we can do now, however, is we can add this to our list of verifiable Turning Point USA lies because I'm going to count this as a lie by severe omission. By keeping your mouth shut and allowing Candace to take all the figurative bullets as she points out the oddity of a plane that you guys recognized, okay? My point is that these planes were known to Turning Point USA, and we all deserve to know why they were on the ground on that day, what they were doing on the ground on that day, and also why Turning Point chose to stay mum when every influencer under the sun and every publication attacked me for even mentioning the planes, making it seem like I was dumb, I was stupid. Turning Point USA is able to provide answers to these questions. There is more that I know, by the way, but I want to challenge them to respond to this first. Were these Egyptian military planes familiar to Charlie Kirk? It is a simple yes or no question. And answer it carefully, please, Andrew Colvett, spokesperson for Turning Point USA. Because there is something very specific, Andrew, that you told me that happened when you arrived into Provo on the tarmac that day, and it is now playing over and over and over again in my mind, and it isn't adding up. Another point that I'd like to follow up with, Andrew Colvett, let's stick with you, is that in the hospital on that day, you told me, you were in the hospital, that you were told that there was a credible threat against me and Tucker Carlson. Specifically, you told me that me and Tucker Carlson were on a list and that you were just telling me as a friend that me and Tucker should lay low. And after you told me that, I ended our phone call and I immediately called Tucker Carlson. And I said, hey, terrified, like obviously crying all day, and telling him that he and I have to lay low because there's a credible threat. And it is now really living inside me that You did not tell me who that threat was from. I assumed the feds told you, but I asked you the question, why wouldn't the feds call me directly if there was a threat against my life? No such call has come in. How is that possible? How could someone have told you that there was a credible threat and that me and Tucker Carlson should lay low, and yet me and Tucker have since not been notified by any federal agency about those credible threats? Who do those threats come from? Because I got to tell you, there are a lot of people making videos about me and Tucker Carlson, and none of them are Egyptians, okay? In fact, it's the Israelis. It is Israel that seems deeply upset with me and Tucker Carlson. They are not letting it go. They are making threats on every stage, okay? People that are tied to Israel are making threats against me and Tucker Carlson, demanding that we be canceled. So who specifically told you in the hospital room that there was a credible threat against my life? I'm going to need that information, okay? I want to know that now because the stakes seem pretty high and I have a lot of questions. This is probably a good time to tell you all that I am starting to piece together another scenario that could have happened. And there was another flight that I am now very interested in. And I believe that somebody somewhere knows something about this flight. So pay attention to this. The tail number is N560TW. N560TW. It departed on the morning of September 10th from Scottsdale, Arizona. And it landed into Provo at 10:06 a.m. It then immediately turned around and departed for Santa Barbara. I'm assuming it maybe picked somebody up. And then it departed Santa Barbara at 11:37 a.m. for Scottsdale, landing at 12:44 p.m. There's a chance that you were working at the airport, that you saw somebody that morning. Maybe you were in Santa Barbara. Maybe you were in Scottsdale. Somebody saw something, and I'm asking you to email us more tips at CandaceOwens.com. I am interested in that flight. We're not done yet. There's more. I know something else about the Egyptian flights. This time, another mommy sleuth. I learned that oddly, Duncan Aviation, where that plane was transponding from, the FBO in Provo sourced rental cars for these quote unquote Egyptians when they landed a couple of days before this operation. And I didn't just learn that, I actually have the license plates number for 4 of the vehicles that they rented, okay? Honestly, you guys, it brings me great pleasure to deliver this information because now, surely, Tulsi's office can get involved because, those darn Egyptians are at it again. Those darn Egyptians. Here are the 4 license plates of the cars that were rented. The first car rented was a silver 2025 Toyota RAV4. The Utah license plate number is T092ZS. The second car was a white 2025 Toyota Camry. Arizona license plate, CWN-N872. Don't worry, I'm going to show you guys this in a spreadsheet. The third car was a white 2023 Toyota RAV4. Utah license plate number TN12KM. The fourth was a black 2025 Toyota 4Runner. Utah license plate number Z923DA. To the students at UVU, do we have this somewhere? Did you pull it up or just did you show them it on the screen? I didn't see what you showed them. Okay, cool. License plates were shown. Now to the students at UVU, please check your phones, your pictures from that day, because if any of those cars were seen at UVU or around campus on that day, then we're going to be able to suspect something else. Check if you hotels, maybe gas station, maybe you work somewhere. Look at those lights, look for those plates during that time frame from when those cars were there until they departed. Somebody will be able to connect it out somewhere. And of course, the email address to send it to is moretips@CandaceOwens.com. It's only Monday, folks. I've actually discovered a lot more, but it's only Monday. So let's take a break. All right, you guys, too many people have been vilified for standing up for the truth. Obviously, so many people have felt the sting of injustice, but also a lot of people right now are feeling courage. I'm definitely done playing defense. I no longer water down what I believe to be palatable. Silence is not kindness, silence is consent. And right now, the greatest silence surrounds the topic of the lives that are lost before they even take their first breath. If we're going to call ourselves defenders of life, then we have to act like it. That's why I'm asking you to join me to fight back with action, with truth, and with love. For just $28. That's what it costs to give a free ultrasound to a woman that is in crisis and considering an abortion. Just $28 will help her to see the life that's growing inside of her, to give her the truth that our culture will not. So don't sit this one out. Don't wait for permission. Be bold, be clear, be unapologetically pro-life. Go to preborn.org/Candace right now. Give $28. You can give 10 times that if you're able to. This is a line that we need to stand on. We have to stand for truth and what's right, and we have to save lives from abortion and stand firm in the gospel. Again, that is preborn.org/Candace to provide an ultrasound for just $28. Also going to tell you guys about dose, because I think we all know that the modern day diet is taking a toll on Americans. Processed foods, there's hidden ingredients, there's sugar in practically everything. We're seeing liver health concerns rise in the U.S. because of this, and there's one trusted solution out there that I trust to take care of my liver health, and that is Dose. Dose is a powerful all-in-one wellness shop. It helps support gut health, immunity, energy, and all the stuff that really matters when you don't have time to slow down. And let's be honest, when you've got a big and busy family, slowing down is not always an option. It takes me literally 5 seconds in the morning, and I feel a difference all day long. The best seller that they have is Dose for Your Liver, which was formulated to cleanse your liver of unwanted elements, aid digestion, and maintain your body's filter. Dose's clinical results showed lowering liver enzyme levels by 50% in most of their participants. One shot of Dose for Your Liver is equivalent to 17 shots of turmeric juice. Dose is gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, and vegan. Stick with Dose and you will feel the incredible benefits over time, which more energy, better digestion, reduced bloating, healthier liver, enzyme function, reduction in brain fog, and better sleep. New customers can save 35% on your first month of subscription by going to dosedaily.co/Candace or entering Candace at checkout. That's dosedaily.co/Candace for 35% off your first month subscription. I have no doubt that Tucker Carlson and I are being threatened. That's pretty obvious. I think it's very obvious that nobody thinks Egypt is behind it. You know, the last time that narrative ran was probably the USS Liberty. That was the plan, right? To make us think Egypt had attacked us. But it wasn't actually Egypt that attacked that ship. It was Israel. Israel attacked that ship. Israel is growing increasingly alarming in terms of legislation that they're trying to get passed, trying to censor our speech, trying to take over social media campaigns. Bibi Netanyahu is name-checking me and Tucker Carlson, and all of their sycophants are on stage calling us out. So I'm going to connect that dot there. And like I said, there is more I know about those planes. But your move, Turning Point USA, because that's the last time you're going to have me gaslit about something and sit by idly and pretend you know nothing. It's interesting, too, because in a typical scenario, when somebody's murdered in broad daylight and they have like, $100 million organization behind them, it's common sense that you should check the people that work at that organization. Like that's like the first people that you should begin to investigate. So we reject your naval intelligence psychological operation where you tell us that that's a weird thing to do, okay? It's always somebody close to you. If there's a financial motive, yeah. And I would say an organization of that size that misses their deadline, their tax deadline for the first time, that's a little weird. Yes, they did. A YouTube channel known as Wolves and Finance did a report on this, which I'm going to show. Now, this wasn't the people that I was working with, and there is somebody else that I told you that I'm going to have on my show that has been looking into this for a while. But this was extremely well done and at least brought forth some big questions that I think are on a lot of people's minds. How does an organization that size just miss they filed for an extension and then miss the extension deadline to file? Let's take a listen to a part of what they had to say.
Let's go look at the 990 forms that Turning Point USA submits to the IRS every year. These contain their annual financial statements. When you look at the forms, there are some very strange anomalies. Several of the 990 forms are missing. Turning Point USA lists 4 related entities. There is Turning Point USA, Turning Point Endowment, Turning Point Action, and America's Turning Point. all different organizations do slightly different things. The Form 990 for fiscal year 2024 is posted for Turning Point USA, but it is missing for all the other 3 organizations. It looks like it was never turned in. This is a massive red flag. So Tyler Boyer is being snarky on X.com and telling people to go look at the annual financial audit, but the financial audit is missing from last year for 3 of the 4 organizations. This strange decision to hide their financial statements happened 4 months before Charlie Kirk was murdered. I will repeat for clarity. Someone at Turning Point decided not to file 3 of the 4 of their annual financial statements 4 months before Charlie Kirk appointed a new COO, requested a new audit, and was murdered. Those 3 financial statements are still missing.
So to be clear, that was another point that they gaslit me on when I told you that it was unusual that 7 days before Charlie died, he said that he wanted to establish Doge, right? Tyler came out and lied, and he said, this is just totally regular. And Alex Clark said, oh, every year since I've been here, this is what we do. And the guy starts this video by being like, you have to be an idiot to accept that as an answer. Of course, doing an audit has nothing to do with internally establishing a Doge, right? He recognized that something was wrong at the organization. And as I told you, okay, because I do not miss on these things, he was not just concerned about where the money was going. He was concerned about where it was coming from. And what I can tell you about Charlie is that if Charlie got clued into something, if Charlie was at first trusting his lieutenant, and then he suddenly said, wait a second, what's going on over here? And he decided that he wanted to figure something out, he would have figured that ish out by sundown, okay? That is how brilliant he was. If it had his attention, he would have figured it out by sundown. What did Charlie discover is my question, okay? Now, to correct something that he says there, he says 4 months before, that's the regular tax deadline. It is actually normal. It is for big companies to file for a tax extension, but they missed that deadline as well. I think that was October 15th was a tax extension deadline. They have missed them both, and that is completely abnormal. And he is correct. If you go back and you look at Turning Point USA's filings before, they always file all of them at the same time. So this is unusual that they've left off 3 of them. And I'm going to let him get into a deeper clip here where he discusses the quote unquote missing 8.6 million. Take a listen.
Let us look at the one financial statement we do have for fiscal year 2024 for Turning Point USA. Schedule I shows grants and other assistance to organizations, governments, and individuals in the United States. This schedule shows you where Turning Point is sending its money. We see that a lot of money, $8,560,625, is being sent to America's Turning Point. They are sending it to their own shell company. Now, this is not necessarily illegal, except for the fact that the financial statement for the other organization is missing. We cannot see how this $8.6 million is being spent. This is very important because there are strange variances around this money. I have pulled the last 5 years of 990 forms for Turning Point USA. Here is a table with contributions compared with the largest expense, which are the grants from Schedule I. You can immediately see a strange dip between 2022 and 2023. This dip happens because in prior years, they were sending money to Turning Point Endowment. They were transferring millions of dollars. This stopped in 2021, and they started ramping up sending money to America's Turning Point. Let's break this down. First of all, I find it really unethical that they were sending millions of dollars to their own endowment. I know that a lot of nonprofits do this, but I think it is unethical. Do the donors know this is how Turning Point is spending their money? Turning Point USA is taking in donations and then sending the money to their endowment to invest in the stock market. In my opinion, they should be spending donations on operating their nonprofit, not on buying investments. As of fiscal year 2023, they had $61 million of assets in the endowment, which was generating $1.9 million a year of investment income. Personally, I think that's an unethical way to run a nonprofit, but that's just my opinion. But what is important here is what happened to the missing $8.6 million, the amount sent to America's Turning Point in fiscal year 2024. The amount of money sent to America's Turning Point was getting larger and larger, and because the financial statements are missing, we cannot tell how this money was spent. If we look at the prior year, the majority of the money was spent on other salaries and wages. How is this possible when America's Turning Point reports 0 employees? Does anyone else think that sounds a little suspicious? In my opinion, what I think is happening is I think there are fake people on the payroll. I think that paychecks are getting sent to people who do not really exist. And that would explain why we have a company with 0 employees with millions of dollars of salary expense.
Yeah, that sounds highly suspicious to me, especially when you add in the fact that Charlie wanted to establish a Doge 7 days before he died. When you also add into the fact that they're all telling strange lies, when you also add in the fact that there is this weird psychological campaign to tell us not to look at Turning Point USA or we're going to go to hell, essentially. They're like using biblical passage to tell us why it's not moral. Do they think we are this soft and persuadable? Like, do we look like the kinds of people that are just going to watch an assassination in broad daylight and just let it go because some influencers insist that we do? No, sorry. It's not 1963. You're not going to get away with it this time. Anyways, he then goes on to describe how they conducted their own audit using a firm called Baker Tilly. I'll let him take it away.
What about Tyler Boyer's argument that they have an annual financial audit every year? If what I am saying is true, why wouldn't their annual audit catch these issues? The annual financial audit for Turning Point USA, Inc. and its affiliates was performed by an accounting firm called Baker Tilly. In the notes, they explain that they audited Turning Point USA, Turning Point Action, Turning Point Endowment, America's Turning Point, and TPUSA Merch. That usually means they audited all the shell companies when they provided their opinion that the statements present fairly in all material respects. That means it is a clean audit with no problems. I wonder if Baker Tilly will provide an explanation why they can issue a flawless audit report when 3 990 forms were never filed with the IRS. And just to clarify, Baker Tilly's audit opinion letter is signed after Turning Point missed the filing date with the IRS. So there is no excuse for Baker Tilly not to mention this in their audit opinion. Erica Kirk assumed the role of CEO of Turning Point USA on September 18th, 2025, 8 days after Charlie Kirk was murdered. She has been the CEO for almost 2 months. She needs to answer these questions. If someone has lied on the 990 form, people go to jail for that. I want some explanation of why Turning Point USA sent $8.6 million to their shell company and then did not file financial statements. And Erica, I don't know who does the accounting at Turning Point, but if they have not been telling you about any of this, you need to fire your accountants immediately.
I think all valid points. And again, just to modify, it is possible that when they used that outside auditor, that they showed them all of the documentation and then they gave them a clean bill of health. And then for whatever reason, Turning Point decided not to file. It's possible. Okay. Like I said, probably a low probability, but it is plausible that they did that. But it is just a fact that they missed the filing extension deadline. So what's going on here? Where did the 8.5 million go? And what's also compelling about this video, which we didn't show, is that he clarifies that Turning Point USA actually decreased their staff, the 501c3 arm, 33% by 33%. So there was a 33% staff reduction. And yet the cost of salaries somehow went up. And to him, that looks suspicious. And I agree, that looks suspicious, right? And this, of course, is the kind of pressure that needs to be put on them. Yes, I said it was a very bad idea right off the bat for Erica, who's grieving her husband, to then instantly become a chairman and the CEO, because these are valid questions now that people are asking. And a chairman and a CEO is going to have to respond to those questions. You have to answer these questions when people are asking about money, especially given the fact that so many people, I mean, they cleared over $70 million in the first couple of weeks after Charlie was assassinated. Okay, that's a lot of well-meaning people that are giving money to this organization who are now learning how this organization functions by routing the bulk of their money, or to a lot of their money rather, not the bulk of it, into their endowment fund, right? That is not okay. We deserve answers to the questions that we are asking, and we're going to keep asking them. Okay, we are going to keep asking them because I know there are snakes at Turning Point USA, and I'm going to reveal more to you guys tomorrow. First, we'll take a quick break, and we'll be back with some comments and answers to your questions. All right, you guys, in all the time that I've been endorsing my wireless company, PureTalk, I've never seen an offer like this. Right now, you can get unlimited talk, unlimited text, and unlimited data with a 30 gig hotspot for just $29.95 a month for life. This is PureTalk's top tier plan, which is normally $65 a month. Right now, through December 7th, you can get all of this for just $29.95 a month. You're saving over 50% a month, every month for life. And it's all on their crazy fast 5G network. But this offer is extremely short-lived, so do not wait. Go to puretalk.com/Owens for PureTalk's best unlimited plan for just $29.95 a month for life. Make the switch in as little as 10 minutes. You can keep your phone, keep your number, and start saving with their unlimited for life plan. Again, that's puretalk.com/Owens to switch to my wireless company, PureTalk. Also remind you guys about American financing because the Fed just dropped interest rates again, and that is great news for American homeowners. If you're feeling overwhelmed thinking about the upcoming holidays, there's no better time than now to get your finances in order. It's hard to think about the holidays when everything is so expensive and your credit cards are already pushed to the max. Well, with the rates dropping, now is the perfect time to pay off that debt. American Financing is helping homeowners access the equity in their home for instant savings. They are saving people just like you an average of $800 a month, and many are seeing rates in low fives, which is a complete game changer compared to those sky-high credit cards. If you start today, you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments, which will give you extra breathing room for the holidays. It costs absolutely nothing to find out how much you could be saving. The holidays are going to be here before we know it, so don't wait. Call their salary-based mortgage consultants today. The number at American Financing is 800-795-1210. Again, that's 800-795-1210. Or visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. That's americanfinancing.net/Owens. Okay, I got a text from one of my friends that says, slight detail, but in September, don't forget, there was a daylight saving time switch. So to calculate the time that we said on Charlie's assassination, it was UTC -6, not -7. So for those times, you're going to adjust them 1 hour forward, just to make that clear, because that will be the headline on X. She didn't calculate that right. It's a different hour because of daylight saving time. Okay, I got to get into a couple of things. First and foremost, if you would like to continue to support us, you can buy our book, Make Him a Sandwich, at makehim-a-sandwich.com, and we have them up now, the signed copies by me, CandaceOwens.com, signed copies. Also, we have new merch on the website, plus our Black Friday sale is going on right now. If you use code BLACK20, you'll get 20% off store-wide, excluding the books. This runs through to Cyber Monday, so don't miss out on that. Okay, let's get to the top comment from last Friday's episode. Somebody writes, a witness has come forward to say that Mikey never even went into the hospital at all when he got there in his car. He just picked someone up and he left. So not only did he run away from Charlie when he got shot, but he didn't even go into the hospital to see what was happening to him. And this proves more that Rob McCoy was lying about this so-called blood all over him, because we were thinking maybe it happened at the hospital. So where did this so-called blood come from that was apparently all over Mikey, because it wasn't when he got shot and it wasn't at the hospital? The channel it's on is Coach Colin's channel, who has been doing some really great content daily on Charlie. Okay, I will say I did not vet that information. Obviously, we, no matter what, pull the top comment from a previous episode. I did see something going around on TikTok, and I can try to reach out to that person, but it's an eyewitness account until we have actual proof. It's basically their word versus his word. So we'd have to see something to be able to verify that. But everyone, by the way, I want to say to all the YouTubers, even if you're making small mistakes, the way that this works is they want to make you feel insecure. They want to make you feel dumb, stupid, and ugly for thinking. And you have to find within yourself the confidence to keep going, right? Because you are watching how they tried to, it was so sinister, the way they have been attacking me from the second that Charlie got shot, and trying to make us think that we're crazy for recognizing that everything is wrong about this day. That's a psychological campaign. That is what the war is nowadays. And I want to just encourage all the YouTubers and all the mommy sleuths. This is Project Mommy Sleuth, really. to keep going, to keep sending us emails, and we are going to solve this thing. The Decentralized Intelligence Agency is going to solve this thing. And like I said, when I tell you what I know tomorrow, it's just we're getting somewhere, you guys. We are getting somewhere. One day at a time, we are getting somewhere. Okay, what else do we have? We have a comment from the Paleo Rides. Right. Hi, Candace. I know you are on the right track. I've been watching daily and I was active on X. Well, until I called out Israeli propaganda and then I was permanently suspended. I had to drive from Arizona to X headquarters in Texas to ask for a review and finally won my freedom 2 weeks ago. They are bigly mad. Yeah. They are definitively running an operation on X. It's obviously military bots. Like I said, they boast if I make one mistake, it's like a trending topic for 3 days. And then when I drop truth, they're like, she's never dropped one fact. And I'm like, we have so many times. It's like crazy to say that we have not dropped any facts. Okay. It's like, that's like so beyond insane to try to suggest that we have not dropped facts when we have been the ones breaking virtually every story on this. And of course, credit to all the other people on X who have been doing the same thing. Ricardo Piquena writes, because I know we are completely and unconditionally loved and everything will be okay. It sucks that we are losing real human beings to their games. Keep searching for truth. Yeah, we're stumbling upon it. U.S. flagpole guy writes, Mommy Max for the wrong side of the tracks doing David stuff with her truth acts with class. You got me rapping out here. Thank you for that donation. Friendly Fairy writes, we all need a friend like you, sending love from Australia. Thank you for saying that. Natalie writes, Candace, my heart is beating so fast. This is insane. Your strength is so inspiring and we have your back. Let's effing go. I know you guys have my back. And I also know that Charlie has my back because Charlie always had my back and I always had his. And like I said, he knew that I'd be the one to defend him and I would stand up to all of these clowns and all of these people who pretend to be pastors and pretend to be biblical and pretend that they're doing this out of like some moral authority. You are the worst human beings in the entire world. Seriously, to hide behind a Bible, like that makes me angrier than anything else for some reason. Like to pretend that somebody pursuing truth when their friend is assassinated is some kind of an immorality or a quote unquote evil makes me sick. It literally makes me sick. The nerve of these people, the things that they did, but I will respect them in one regard. They knew that the first thing they had to do was when I was in my grief stage was to try to pretend Charlie and I didn't even have a relationship because they knew that I would be the one. They knew I was the anomaly. They knew I had already said F the money. They knew I had already said F the reputation. I don't care about the headlines. And because they tried to incentivize me with all of these things before. They knew that I would be the one to burn it to the ground and see what came from the ashes rather than to side with a lie. So credit to them for recognizing that I'm built different. New Life Plan writes, I was today years old when I learned that anyone can FOIA all flock license plate cameras, locations, and data points. Now you know too. What? Is this a thing? Can you FOIA all flock license? What's the flock license plate camera?
We talked a little bit about that off air. There's a network run by a company called Flock of automated license plate readers that are dotted throughout pretty much every town in the United States.
Let's go.
So we can, I looked up the locations. There are some somewhat near UVU as well. So we'll see if we could FOIA that information.
Effing go. Yes. I don't know how I missed that earlier. That is great news, you guys. I know the feds are trying to cover everything. More tips at CandaceOwens.com. We have to be faster than them, smarter than them. Somebody saw something. You have the license plate numbers. Let's go. Calcanus writes, amazing work. We deserved answers and Charlie deserves justice. He's going to get it. He is going to get it. This deep state operation ain't it. Zamet writes, Candace, go Mac. Charlie is watching. He is. Beth writes, Israel had a chokehold on America since JFK. Yeah. Trump couldn't have predicted this awakening. Couldn't he flip? He should resent the Zionist mafia for blackmail. Trump is old. Might investments matter less than legacy or his soul? You know, I don't have to assign anything to Trump. I know that if I was at the end of my life, you know, like in my 80s, as he is in his 80s, I would be caring deeply about the state of my soul. I don't know what's motivating him. I really don't know what's motivating him, or rather what's not motivating him to get to the bottom of this when the entire world knows that what we've been told is BS. Why is not Trump? Why isn't Trump calling me like on the side and we're like, let's figure this thing out because Charlie loves Trump. So it really tells you that politics is fickle. You know, you shouldn't have a lot of friends in politics. And Booch writes, have you seen the new Sean Ryan with the security detail that took care of Charlie? Do you feel they are trying to push their narrative? We love you, Candace, and we're praying for you always. I have not seen it yet, but I intend to watch it, and I will give feedback on it this week without question. It's on my to-do list. Emma White writes, Candace, I run ops for a nonprofit. Baker Tilly also is the company that files their 990s per the first page. Their audits are not considered valid. A separate company has to do an independent audit. Okay, very interesting that you're saying that. Again, we're reading comments live, so this is allegedly a Baker Tilly, don't come after me. But yeah, that video went deeper into some lawsuits that Baker Tilly was facing for not auditing things correctly. Now, that could be commonplace. If you are an auditing firm, maybe it's normal for auditing firms to be sued. I don't know. That is not an industry that I'm familiar with. GAZF25 writes, I'm 38 years old and never in my life has a journalist been this transparent with Americans, the youth of the nation. This is the way forward. Candace Owens journalism is the new standard. We are pioneering something, and we definitely are. It's never been done like this. No one has ever decentralized the intelligence. No one has ever asked for help. And I don't think there's ever been a person that has cared more, that has been standing against evil people, who was leading the investigation. I don't think that's ever happened. I think we're making history. We may not be here when it's celebrated, but we're making history, and what we do today actually does matter. I know that. And I don't care what any of these people say. I was clear. I was explicit when I said that I want war with all of you. Anybody that's lying is going to get exposed. I told you I felt it spiritually. Charlie told me he was betrayed in a dream. They laughed at me. They mocked at me. Well, who's laughing now? We'll see you guys tomorrow.